Call this meeting to order. If you'd stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, can we have approval of the county board minutes that were sent out? We got a motion by Commissioner Johnson.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Not this time.
None, can I get?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Community Development, Carol Anderson, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Carol.
Well, I just want to update you on some projects that are going on and you should be aware of. First one, you probably want to know how Larson Boats Wabasha ended up. That closed on April 5th, and everyone got paid out who had money in. That means the county got a new $500,000 revolving loan fund, and the city did too. So that's $1 million more in the county we can use to make loans to businesses. Plus, everyone who originally put money in got paid out. They're now at 33 employees as around June 1st. They're slowly, they're trying to do, I think, about 15 at a time, so they can get through the training. With all of the people that were Larson employees, we encouraged them to sign up as a displaced worker because they were permanently laid off. And almost all of those people, Workforce Center says, have found jobs, and almost all of them with an increase in pay and benefits. So when they do on-the-job training, and that's what the DWP money can be used for, you got to write a work plan for it and everything. And Brian Gopinski told me when he came a few years ago, since that time, well, he only wrote about 5, 6 of them. He said he wrote 40 in 6 weeks with this. And he said the employees knew it because it was training money that their other employer, whether it be Wabash or anybody else, could use. And so the employees said, hey, I'm more valuable to you if you hire me. And so that all worked out very well. They went through of the displaced worker training money. They used $150,000. That's all used up already, and now they're working on their JTIP training money, and that's another $100,000. So they're training the workers as they're bringing them on. They're talking about having a grand opening the first half of October, and you'll be on the invite list to go over and meet the executives and tour what they've done over there. Let's see. The other,
Carol, I have a question for you. Is there any Larson's people left there? Is Larson still doing some stuff over there?
I think all the Larson people are gone. If there's any work being done, it's on a contract basis to tie up whatever
Okay,
Larson
sure.
had. But I think by now, everything should have
Okay.
pretty much been moved through the plant.
Okay.
Last night, you should be aware, the city council approved a tax increment financing district for Joe Berg and DJ Products over in the West Side Industrial Park. I looked up, we worked with Joe when he first came to town. He started up in his garage. In 2000, the city did a TIF district then to help him build his initial building over there. And he was, at that time, it was him and his brother, and they were going to hire 2 to 3 more people. They've expanded 3 times since then. They've outgrown their facility. They're close to 50 employees right now. So they're going to build to the south of their building. They have some lots that they bought. They're lower lots. It was an old farmstead, if you remember, if any of you are old enough to remember back then. And so there was some buried, footings, foundations from some of the farm buildings there. So he's got to get rid of that. But also, he needs to add fill because he needs his loading docks. And so he has about $250,000 worth of site improvements there that he needs to be making. So the city passed a TIF district to help him with those site plans. Let's see, we have another company that's a new company coming to town. Abrasive Blasting Solutions, ABS. They approved a TIF district for them. They work in the sandblasting industry. They're a supplier for the sandblasting industry. They're in the upper Midwest. They looked for locations from Pequot Lakes to St. Cloud, and Little Falls was their first choice. And so they are going to be located in Chief Hole-in-the-Day Industrial Park, at the very north end of Chief Hole-in-the-Day. And they're going to be building a 12,000 square foot building out there. And so they approved a TIF district for them. Community Development is also looking here in the next couple of months to help with some equipment loans. But the main thing they wanted to do is get the TIF district done so they can get in the ground and start building. So if you see some construction up there, that's what it's going to be. They're going to have 8 employees to start, and they hope to grow from there.
And what do they do? They build products that
No, they
utilize?
have the sand and the equipment for sandblasting.
Yeah.
And they're going to consolidate all of that in one spot up in Chief Hole-in-the-Day. And, I suppose it's a lot of sand that they have that they put in the machines, and then they sell the machines to various industries, yeah.
So they're
okay.
not like mining sand.
Oh, no,
And
no, no,
they're
no, no,
selling-
no,
yeah,
no,
and
no,
making
no.
sand
There,
stuff.
there is they carry the machines that a sandblaster is
Okay.
gonna
Yeah.
use, and then, well, here's the right sand
Yep.
that you use, and there's different types of sand that
Yep.
you use for, so that's what they do, yeah. And we closed a loan with Autodocs on the west side. Dave Chihan and his son are operating that. The latest one we did, I think we closed it a week or so ago, was for the old Creamery Quilt Shop, Woolen Mill in Randall. And what they're doing is, they started the quilt shop, and they came to find out that their wool is a good batting in the quilts. And there isn't a place to have your wool, if you raise sheep, to have your wool cleaned and carded and made either into yarn or into batting. And there's one in southern Minnesota, and they're booked up for a year. Another one in Wisconsin's booked up for a year. So when you go to the county fairs and you see all the sheep, you gotta shear them twice a year, I guess. And what do you do with that wool? And farmers are just kind of burning it. And so they decided to put a machine in, and Community Development said we'd help them. They put in for a value-added producer grant from Minnesota Department of Agriculture and didn't get that. So the board stepped up and says, well, we'll fund the machine for you. And so that'll give farmers another location, and they're already getting people saying, can I get on your list to get my wool cleaned? And so what they'll do is they can either continue it on the process and make the yarn and dye it and whatever for the person, or when it comes out of the machine, it's like the thickness for batting for a quilt, and that's the most expensive batting you can get. So there should be a good profit margin there for them.
So they do it all there, they clean it, they make the batting, and they will also make yarn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And they're going to employ 5 people doing that in Randall. And so there's a whole big movement now, kind of, in the fiber arts. And Randall is starting to, I can see a synergy there. And they said they have other projects in the future, so we'll be there to help them with that, So, and finally, I've been working with Tabitha. We put in for a grant for $8,000 from Region 5 on the Good Life project for the website to attract people into the community. And so they're giving each county, you can put in for up to $8,000, and we said, let's do it for taking pictures and getting some young entrepreneurs or high school students to go out and take pictures that we can use that are the correct pixels and all of that, so that we can use them on our websites. And various cities can use them, whatever. We're gonna have a little, probably a photo bank or whatever you would call it, that people can put in and use for their websites in the various communities. So that's going to be the 21st, that's Thursday, or is it tomorrow? Up at NJPA. We'll be up there seeing if we can get that grant. So every little bit helps.
Yep.
So, but that's what we've been kind of working on, so.
Carol, which board did Which board is it that the governor reappointed you to?
Oh, yeah, the governor reappointed me to the Minnesota Rural Finance Authority. I was on for 3 years, and they reappointed me, get 2 terms, so. And, yeah, thank you. We do all the beginning farmer loans, we participate with banks, and we're getting a lot of, when farm economics are good, we don't see a lot of deals, and now we're very busy, so. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Carol.
Yep.
Okay, sheriff's report, Sean? Welcome.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Sean.
Morning. So we'll be doing a month of review for May. And maybe just highlighting a few things that occurred in the month of May. So starting off with our report, I just had some photos. And just to highlight a few of those, we did the annual sandbox fill. And that was the month of May. You'll see Mary Swenson to the right. She received an award through PLEA, which I believe stands for Professional Law Enforcement Assistance Association. And there was a letter that came out from PLEA that said if you would like to recognize any of your support staff for what they do on a daily basis, go ahead and submit a letter, and it's possible they may receive an award. So I did that for Mary, and she did receive an award. She's got 16 years total experience. She's been in her current position as a office support supervisor for the last 6 years. And she's truly the hub of our department because everything really flows through her. All the reports that are dictated and have to be typed up and all the casework handling, getting it to the county attorney's office for charges, et cetera. Everything needs to really flow through her. So we recognized her and it was the least we could do. So we're happy for it that she got this award.
If I may, Mr. Chair, how many sandboxes did you guys fill again? You guys did hundreds, didn't you?
We did quite a bit, and to be honest with you, I don't
Right,
recall
but I
the
know
number,
a
but
big
it was
number.
up
Great,
there.
yeah.
There's a photo of the National Nursing Home Week, which was at the Pierce Villa. Basically, Kim Russell, the administrator there, put out an invite to area law enforcement as well as the fire department and Kathy from our Veterans Affairs office here. And we basically just showed our support. We had lunch with them, and since the mayor wasn't there, I guess I read a proclamation. But it was good just to show our support and be present, and I believe all the residents had a good time as well as we did, so. And then the bottom picture, you can just see that we're still active. We're still active with our community involvement, Coffee with the Cop. It was somewhat centralized at Little Falls when we started. Now we're trying to expand and go out to other communities, and we're trying to educate community members what's going on, what we're seeing here locally, and really just getting down and dirty and showing them photos of what these drugs look like, what they should be looking for, because they truly are the eyes and ears for us in the community. With that, our number of complaints received for the month of May was 988. 25, I believe, I just texted Mary. 25 of those were for Mudfest. So the numbers do seem a little bit high, but a total number, again, 988, 25 of those were Mudfest related. And in 2017, we had 886 complaints. So you can see that it did go up a little bit. Our non-criminal complaints was 858. Going down to our drug investigations, you'll see we had 2 controlled substance investigations, 2 controlled substance agency assists, and 2 possession of controlled substance methamphetamine. And I have a couple articles. I just wanted to let you guys know that meth is pretty prevalent again throughout our state of Minnesota. We're obviously seeing it here locally too. You know, the big talk has been heroin and opioid abuse, but meth has really peaked, and it's at its peak again here locally. So back in January of 2005 to June 2006, I was on the task force, and we saw a lot of meth labs, and our numbers had just spiked. Well, now we're seeing high volume numbers of methamphetamine coming through our state lines, or crossing state lines into Minnesota. And we're seeing a lot of the Mexican cartels producing this meth, and they're actually getting somewhat creative, and they're basically coming across our state lines with a liquid form of meth, so it's already cooked. Here's some of the things that they're doing. They're actually taking liquid meth and they're mixing it with like diesel fuel. And it's in a big tank, so when it comes across the lines, if law enforcement was to make a stop, and let's say there was some suspicion and we wanted to test the product, there's just really no way to test it because it's mixed and you're not gonna get a positive read. And then they're being creative where they're going to a place where they have everything set up and they're extracting the methamphetamine out of that diesel fuel. So it's not just diesel fuel, it's other liquids that they're mixing it with. So they're being creative, and of course, there is Mexican cartel connections throughout our state, and that's why we're seeing a lot of this funneling through. And of course, with Morrison County, we have two major highways. You got Highway 10, Highway 371, and we're seeing it going up on Highway 25 as well. So it's scary out there. It used to be a 5-pound load was a big deal. Now we're seeing 25-pound loads. We're seeing up to 75-pound loads. Not here in Little Falls, but close enough to us. And I can guarantee it's still coming and funneling through. So that's just a little bit what we're seeing. I'm trying to update our Facebook page. There's a couple good articles that I want to put out there and just keep all our residents aware of what's going on as well.
So, Mr. Chair, Sheriff, if I may,
Yeah.
we're not a manufacturing county. I believe that's what you just got done saying. I'm not suggesting that it's not being manufactured anywhere in the county, but that's not the issue. It's coming in from outside, but it's coming in droves. It's coming in like mosquitoes, is what you're kind of saying.
Correct.
It's here.
It's here, it's prevalent throughout our state. I think what we're seeing is a lot of opioid and heroin has been taking the headlines,
Yeah.
and methamphetamine's kind of been put on the back burner. But now we're here to say that it's at its peak, and it's here present in our county and every county through Minnesota. So we just don't want that to go on the wayside. We definitely want to keep everyone educated and up to date what's going on here locally.
I believe Mr. Chair, didn't the legislature pass legislation that made it less of a crime to possess methamphetamine as it was heroin
Well,
recently?
what they did was they messed with the numbers. So now technically, if we want to get a first-degree cell, we have to hit a certain number, and we have to have so much of that product in order
Takes
to.
longer.
So it does take longer. And of course, we do everything we can to work up that food chain and to get the major manufacturer. But I can tell you here locally and throughout our Central Minnesota Violent Offender Task Force, that every time we work a case, you know, we try to get phone records, we do subpoenas on everything we can to kind of trace the roots where this is coming from. And again, it points back to Mexico, and it points back to the cartels. So it's tough for us, but we definitely, you know, we do everything we can in our power, especially to try and make it a federal case if it's crossing lines, and get all the resources we can to help us combat this problem. So just want everyone to know that if you are asked, methamphetamine has not gone away. It's still prevalent here.
Mr. Chair, Sheriff, Commissioner, I have to just ask a little bit, and I missed this one. The legislature made it less of a crime?
Yes.
How did,
You
you
gotta
explain
buy
that again?
more to make it
They changed
the
the
same offense.
Threshold.
thresholds for various drug amounts. So it used to be, for example.
Where'd that come from?
Well, there's a long story behind it.
Jails are full, probably.
Well, jails are full. Jails should be full if that's the case.
So yeah, it's, our guys are actually trying to make more sales just to reach those thresholds, just to get somebody for a first degree, let's
Yeah.
say, versus, you know, less offense, so.
But you don't think, see, I was thinking maybe that they're going back to meth because they can have more on them and get a less offense than if it was heroin. Is that, do
Well,
you think that's part of it or not?
from what I've been told, it's so easily available in Mexico. I mean, there's controls, don't get me wrong. There's controls here. If you remember 2005, 2006, we saw a lot of labs. Let me back that up, 2005 prior. Well, then they made it a crime, or basically, there was a new threshold that came into place through legislature that you could not buy cold medicine, like Sudafedrin, from over the counter, and if you did, it would be, it'd be documented, and you'd have to sign out for it. Well, these cartels aren't buying packages, they're buying bulks. They're getting bulks of Sudafedrin, they're getting bulks of ephedrine, they're getting bulks of what they need. And then, so there's really less control in Mexico than there is here. And because of the quantity and because of the availability, that's why we're seeing this. I guess I can't answer your question directly whether or not that's the main reason, but I'm sure it has something to do with it. So,
Thank you.
yep. Any other questions? You're just gonna see in our training, we had 2 officers attend DMT, which I believe stands for Data Master Testing. That's basically our intoxilizer, so if someone's brought in for a DWI, we have to have them perform a test. And anyway, they have to be recertified, our Data Master Testing operators every 2 years through the BCA. So that's what is going on there. 20 officers attended firearms training. Usually every month you're gonna see training. Some of it's mandated by post. But usually every month our firearms instructors, our use of force instructors, we're trying to do at least 1 hour of training a month, just to stay abreast with everything going on. And then 2 officers attended the Mansani CAMAM conference, which is drug investigation conference.
Sean, we were at the AMC workshop the other day, and MCIT, our insurance, they were talking about all the officers that get hurt in training. Is there anything that I noticed a lot of our workman's comp stuff comes from that also. Is there anything that's being done about that? And I don't know if it's aggressiveness, if it's, I mean, I don't know, you know.
There is, and Mr. Chair, this is a tough one for me, because I used to be a firearms and use of force instructor, and I can just tell you, you always fall back on the way you train. So if we're gonna relax our training so much where, okay, let's just really dumb this down and let's crawl instead of run, I'm fearful that when we get on the street and we deal with a high-risk situation that we may be setting ourselves up for failure. But to answer your questions, yes, we have dumbed it down a little bit. Instead of full go, it's almost a run versus sprint. But those are the types of incidents that we really ran into, where people are going full speed, 110%, and then there might be a twisted ankle, or there might be, something, broken finger or whatever.
Yeah.
So we try and address everybody beforehand. We're asking if there's any previous injury, and then we're telling people, hey, if you do have somewhat of an injury, don't go into this certain scenario or this certain exercise, because if you already have a
Yeah.
injury, we don't want to make it worse, so.
And MCIT is looking to try to provide assistance to law enforcement officers to see what we can do to ensure we get that important benefit of the training, like what Sheriff Larson was saying, but yet try not to max out on our claims and have people able to work on the force and not out due to injury. So it's a tough balance, but our insurer's really trying to help put in place something for law enforcement officials to help try to balance that.
I certainly think we're doing our best, but I
Yeah.
do notice there are a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a sign of all of us getting older too.
Well, that's probably part of it.
If we go over our criminal complaints, I'll just really go over the highest ones, I guess. You're gonna see that 3-4 o'clock position, 12%, it's gonna be green in the bottom right pie there. That's gonna be 16%, or I'm sorry, 16 actual incidents out of the 130, which is gonna be our disturbing the peace. So we had a few of those calls. The bottom, 6 o'clock position, 18%, it looks like it's kind of a pink shade, that's our property damage. We had 24 property damage complaints.
And if I may, that'd be like mailboxes, whatever, that'd come under there, right?
So yeah, Commissioner, in this case, it actually 14 occurred at a residence/yard. So it could be anything from property damage to the yard, or it could be anything from property damage that may have occurred inside a residence. It's not really a burglary, but let's say someone got upset and punched a hole in the wall. Or let's say someone's cutting lawn and a rock kicked through the window, anything related to that. And then the other one, the 9 o'clock position, which would be the blue shade, which is 15% on your left in the middle, that's gonna be our theft. And we had 19 thefts that occurred in the month of May. 8 of those were from a building/yard, and really that's the majority. Other than that, it was just really miscellaneous. Couple gas drive-offs, 1 watercraft, 1 vehicle, 1 credit card, and a couple identity thefts. So that's it for that. Any questions on the complaints? Then moving to our traffic citations, you'll see the top right, 28%. We had 23 speeding tickets that were issued. And then really right next to it to the left, the upper portion, the green, 29%, that was 24 written warnings. So again, a lot of written warnings and citations, and then everything in between is somewhat miscellaneous unless you have questions on that.
Have you seen the citations on speeding go down, or the warnings a little bit, that they've increased 27 to 60 miles an hour? Or maybe you can't tell off of that, but
I technically can't tell off of that unless I really pulled all the data from that highway. But looking from month to month, this is pretty, it looks like it's pretty much ideal to where we've been in the past. Pretty much the same and similar, so.
thank you.
Yep. So anyway, for our jail, you can see the total amount of inmates for Morrison County for the month of May has been 35 on an average. Itasca County, they've been really supporting us the last 2-3 months. They've been having, their number of inmates has been fairly high, so we've been helping them out, as well as Aiken County has been housing some of their inmates as well. We've been averaging 19 inmates for the month of May for Itasca County. The total amount of inmates, including Morrison County, has been 56 for the month of May. And then you'll see that our out-of-county inmate revenue from other counties on the next page was 34,720. So we averaged 39 inmates from out of county for the month of May. Any questions on that? I don't know if you have this. Okay, so the next page, we just did a breakdown, just so so you, Mr. Chair, and the board members can really just look at what counties we've been utilizing and what we've been receiving from revenue for each county. So it's something different, but it's kind of interesting because you can see we started off with St. Louis County, and a lot of St. Louis County, they had some runoff on inmates, but they had an overabundance of females. So we helped them out as much as we could, and then that seemed to back off, and then Itasca County now has the large number of inmates, so we're helping them out as well. So overall, through the month of May, from every single county that we've been housing, we've received $101,665 of revenue, so.
Sean, some people would probably ask the question, if, on that 100,000, what does that really cost us to do it? But I would say that we don't add any more staff, because you have them there anyway.
Correct.
So the numbers, this is really a good income, because it's
Yep.
not cost, I guess what I'm getting at is the staff is there anyway.
Correct.
And we're not adding staff to take care of this.
It's the same amount of staff, all it does is, they're getting paid the same, it's just increased duties.
Yep.
Now, granted, there's gonna be some more money that has to be applied towards the mills.
Yep, yep.
But it's very minimal.
Yep.
And a lot of this is profit, so. And then our 2-year comparison is the last chart that I have, and you'll see that our total number of complaints actually went up. So if you're doing a comparison, you know, and I hate to say this, but I think we screwed up, and I should have looked at this prior. I think it says MAR, that's March, that's not gonna be May. So I'm not even gonna give you this comparison, that's my fault. Because it may mean May, but it's MAR, so I'm not gonna go there. I'm sorry about that, and I'll make sure I send you guys a corrected copy on
Mr.
that.
Chair, I have a question too. On sentence to serve, when you have these out-of-county inmates, can they go out on the sentence to serve too, or is it just counties from Morrison inmates?
So usually what we have done in the past is we would always utilize Morrison County inmates, because there would be so many and so many would be available. However, our count's been somewhat low in Morrison County. I think we averaged, was it 40 or high 30s?
Yeah.
Whatever the report said, I wanna say it was low 40s. So based on that number, there was only so many people that were approved by the judge and by the courts to be allowed to help us out on sentence to serve. So when you only have a couple people, then we usually look for other counties to assist us. But again, they have to be minimal risk. They can't be a felon or, maybe somebody's in for an assault or something similar. It's gotta be some minimal risk where we know we can put them out there and hopefully not have issues with them.
And Mr. Chair, Sean, recently promoted our STS, person, Tim Rummer, to the jail programmer position, and so we'll be backfilling that other position, but Tim did a great job interviewing. I was part of that panel, and we opened it up externally and had some phenomenal candidates. But Tim certainly rose above, and he is very passionate about the work he does, and so he will be now housed more inside the jail, working with all of the inmates on the programming that we do, and has some good ideas he's brought to the table, so.
Mr. Chair, if I
very
can.
excited about that.
Thank you, and I am definitely excited about this. I think he brings a lot of spunk, I guess would be the word, ambition and passion. And we're gonna do things a little differently. We're gonna try and get some good programs in. Tim's got some good ideas. I think we need to look at our inmates and say, what are the bulk of the inmates in there for? And really, if a lot of them are in there for drug-related incidents, then what kind of programs can we bring in to assist them and transform them to the outside when they get released? So those are things we're looking at, and very excited. Tim's, I think he had like 6 programs that he already had kind of laid out and ready to go. So definitely excited, and thanks for helping
Yep,
him on
and
that.
that helps everyone when, idle hands have a tendency to cause trouble. So the more we can keep them busy and the more that we can provide added value for when they are released to be a bit more productive is a good thing. And so I learned a lot about that process and about what we can offer, and very excited and glad Tim is gonna be on board with that.
Tell him congratulations for all
I'll
of
do
us who
that.
have, but, yeah.
Any other questions for me? I mean, there's probably a million things I can talk about, but
Yeah.
I will just mention the command post, the mobile command post. We did do a presentation, myself and our emergency manager, Victoria Ingram. And we presented that, I believe it was early June, to the NJPA. And I think there was like 9 placements,
There's
and we
9, yeah.
received, we were ranked number 2. So because we're within the top 4, top 5, we were able to, as of right now, we should be receiving funding up to $100,000 towards a mobile command post. And of course, I have to bring this in front of the board and get approval, and then we can talk about where we're gonna be getting the funds from on our end. But anyway, I wanted to let everybody know the process is now that it goes through the NJPA board, and they have to make approval, and then I'll be coming to our board here and granting approval as far as where I can get the remaining funds from.
That'll be done tonight.
Oh, perfect. So any other questions for me? Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you.
Social service report. Public health report to
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning, Brad.
I'm gonna bring my guests up right away and have them introduce themselves, and then they have a little report, and then we have a resolution that would need to be approved. So I'll maybe turn it over to these two.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Silva. I'm the Housing, Youth, and Family Resources Director from Lutheran Social Service based in Brainerd. And Rachel Zita, our Program Manager, will be speaking regarding the resolution we hope to be passed.
Maybe just before you start, we'll serve as a invited guest as well to hear the presentation, so.
Oh, it has to be really good now. All right, well, thank you, commissioners and staff, for allowing us to come. What Brad had said, it is renewal time for our grants. So LSS has been administering this funding through Minnesota Housing, which is called the FHPAP program, which is Family Homeless Prevention and Assistance Program. So since 1999, we have been administering this grant in Morrison, Todd, and Crow Wing counties. So in this report is just kind of a snapshot of what we had done in the past biennium, just to kind of give you some idea of what we're dealing with. So if you go to the next page, Again, talks a little bit about our programming, but what we do is we serve families and singles who are experiencing homelessness or about to become homeless. So we provide rental assistance, either in deposit utilities or rent form, to either stabilize their housing or get them into new housing. And so then going on to the next page is kind of, so this is our service counties and what we had served. So the second chart, about 80% of our funding does go into Crow Wing County, and then 16% is Morrison and Todd. So we do have an emphasis to kind of increase our numbers in the Morrison and Todd County area, because there definitely is a great need in the other service counties. So our target for this biennium, so we were hoping to serve about 198 households in this 2-year in the Homeless Assistance Fund. And then for the prevention, 348 was our target numbers. So when you go over to the next 2 charts, you can see that we actually had exceeded our homeless numbers. So just through March 31st, we had served 285 households, so we actually overserved for that homeless assistance. And we are seeing a higher need in that category, so a lot more families and individuals are experiencing homelessness. So that means they're either, in their car, staying outside, but there's also this other category that's called doubled up. So they're staying with somebody else, on a temporary basis, and that's basically what a lot of our families and individuals are facing. They're living with somebody else. And you can see that about 21% of the households that we did serve were youth. So those were youth that were 24 and under that are experiencing homelessness. And then our highest demographic is single adults. We're seeing a lot more single adults experiencing homelessness in that category.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Rachel, are you saying that there's 348 households in Morrison County that are homeless?
Yeah, so that 348 was our target number. We actually have a lot of calls, so this is just our target numbers of what we're gonna serve. But our average calls are about 150 a month at Hope Housing. So we received about, it was over 1,200 calls, I believe. I can look that number up and give that to you later. But of those that are experiencing some type of housing instability, we can only serve so many, so that we kind of had to break it down of, what that was.
Wow.
So, but that 285 was what we actually served, households served in that homeless category. And then for prevention, we had 261 households served in prevention. So they were in a rental and they received like an eviction notice, or they, had to leave their current housing. So in this work right here for the prevention funds, we want to eliminate an episode of homelessness. So we either try to keep them in that housing or help them get into a different place. So we're about on target with our prevention assistance, and about 9% of those prevention households were youth. And then adult families are the highest served demographic in this category. So, questions? Kind of a lot of information, isn't it, to digest?
I think the numbers are just astronomical, how many that call you and how many are homeless and.
Yeah.
Are those just Morrison County, or was that for?
Nope, this is all. I'm not-
Okay,
yeah.
All three, yeah.
Yep, I wasn't able to break it out individually, but if you want more specific numbers, I can definitely do a manual count for you guys. Okay. We are changing our reporting tools, so hopefully next biennium I'll be able to separate the numbers a little bit more, so, for you guys. But I can tell, I do know off the top of my head, though, 87 households were served in Morrison County. So that was the raw numbers that I did pull. But I couldn't separate between the homeless assistance and the prevention. That would be a manual count that I would have to do internally.
Can you explain served?
Yep, so those that were enrolled in this program that we are requesting your resolution for, so just this one program, they were enrolled in the program, and what happens when they're enrolled in the program, we provide rental assistance, deposit, utilities, whatever it was, whatever they need to stabilize their housing, and then they also receive case management services from a staff member. So we'll talk about things, whatever they need, or if they need service connection, if they need to get connected to like Morrison County Social Services for food support, medical, making sure the children are in early education or high school, making sure that they continue that work. But it's basically what they need, so we're kind of there to help them walk through whatever is causing them to be in that situation.
To make sure we coordinate these activities as well, Cindy Bachin from our office is on the Hope Housing Board, as well as Rose is on Hope Housing, and so making sure that we have those connections both for us with them and them with us to have some integration with those services, so.
Yep, and they've been great supports to us, so we receive a lot of referrals. So if they come in contact with a family or individual in this area, and they can't help them, they send the referral up to us, and then we kind of take over from there to see if we can help them. So it's a very big collaborative effort for this work, for sure.
Sounds good.
Yep.
I don't think people are aware of the people that don't have housing, or, you know, you just don't see them, they're not a sign on their back or nothing. And I think more people would help with some of that stuff, but I don't think they're just aware of that.
Yeah.
But-
And homelessness definitely looks different in rural communities, you know, such as ourselves versus the urban. So a lot of times you see, you know, it may be apparent in, you know, larger cities, but what I was talking about, that doubled up situation, like they are staying with somebody else, so you don't really think
Yeah.
about them experiencing homelessness, but it's not a permanent place that they can stay, you know, so they can be asked to leave at any time. So, you know, what this funding can do, if they find a place and they need help with that rent or deposit, that's where we can step in to help them find a stable housing option for them. Yep, and then just kind of the numbers, so leaving on a good note. So just for this programming, so we had a target of 70% of the households that exit our program would remain in stable housing. And we actually exceeded that goal, so 89% of our households in this program were stably housed when they had completed the program. So I did want to leave on a good
That's
note.
positive.
Yeah.
Positive.
So the program does work.
If I may, Mr. Chair, how do you identify the homeless in Morrison County? If I'm in Stearns County and I come here and I'm in my car, do I become a Morrison County homeless, or how do you identify that?
Yep, so the great part of this funding is that it's very flexible. So, I mean, they could be, there's no residency requirement, so wherever they find permanent housing. So if they were able to find permanent housing here in Morrison County, then they would be considered Morrison County through our funding. Yep, so, but to receive benefits, though, I mean, there is that 30-day, you know, part of it, but, you know, it's just wherever they can, you know, find that housing stability option. Yep.
For instance, Commissioner, if we had somebody come into our office who came in and said, I'm struggling with finding a house, an apartment, I'm living in my car, I've been there for a couple weeks. We do talk about where did they live, and even if they lived in Stearns County and now we're in their car here, we would refer them to Hope Housing. We would look at the benefits they might be eligible for to try and get them stable. So, yeah, it doesn't matter when they come into our office if they can go to Hope Housing or not,
Yep.
where they're from.
Yeah. The majority of there's not a lot of people that do cross counties. Most of them are residents. A higher number of them are. There's just a smaller percentage of the cross counties. So, but most of them are residents of the county. Yep. Yep.
Interesting.
So I do need board action on the resolution, if I could, please, Mr. Chair.
Okay, can we get a motion?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, I think this is a much bigger issue than any of us really have a handle on, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
slight anyone with that, but it was a couple months ago, I think we had a little presentation on homeless.
Yep.
And this is just a reminder that, wow, it's out there. And I don't think we see it, as Rachel just explained. We don't see it necessarily here. We don't have a whole lot of bridges maybe where people are living under the bridge.
Yeah.
We don't see that. Maybe you do more in a metro area. So I think it's enlightening at the very least. I don't know what the word really even is, but.
And again, I think this information is pretty consistent with what Rose has seen in her office in terms of people coming through her office when she came to present a couple months ago, relative to the homelessness challenges for a lot of individuals. And again, you know, to have a livable wage and be able to afford an apartment or a house, it's challenging from time to time for some individuals.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And what we're noticing too, just one more thing, is just there's a lack of housing options. Like there's just not enough housing for the population. So that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing it it's taking a little bit longer for folks to find housing because there is a shortage of housing. And it's not just a Morrison County, Minnesota, it's nationwide. So that's the biggest. So if anybody comes in to propose building, thumbs up.
Well, I
So we need
recently-
units
I
and
recently
housing.
spoke with an elderly person
Yeah.
versus a younger person who, you know, during the conversation was exactly the same, was housing.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a catch with that, and the catch was affordable housing, and I don't know what affordable is. Don't know what that, I don't know how to make that. I just don't know what that is. But housing,
Yes.
and that in particular person said, look around, there really is no affordable housing.
Yep.
I think you hit the word, the affordable housing. There's possible housing, like I think about some of the units that are open maybe in the Brainerd-Baxter area, but they're not affordable based on the minimum wage that people are making, and people are making 2-3 jobs to make
Yep.
rent and then to pay for childcare and gas and insurance and everything else that's come along for the people that we're working with.
I'm
So,
not sure how to fix that, but
nor are we, but.
What is kind of affordable? I mean, are you talking $600 a month, $500 a month?
Yep, so I'm actually gonna forward you one of my, I'm gonna give it to Brad, and if you can forward it on.
Yep.
I have kind of a breakdown of, when people call into our office, like, we take a snapshot of what their income is, and then we compare it to what rentals are in the current county. I have it broken down between Morrison, Crow Wing, and Todd, since this is the program funding. And basically, for a single, the average income is about $700 to $800 a month for income, and then a one-bedroom apartment is around $300 to $400. So that's almost half of their income going towards rent. For families, the average income is around $1,200 to $1,300 a month, and just for a two-bedroom apartment, you're talking about high sixes, $700, and sometimes that doesn't include utilities. So basically, families and individuals are cost burden. So they're spending about 50% or more of their earned income on just housing. So, yep,
So
so
is that when you step in then? And you'll subsidize part of that?
we have some other programs that will subsidize, but with this funding, we are looking at kind of making it last longer. So we are looking at providing mini subsidies instead of just the 1 month, maybe 3 to 4 months, just to help them build capacity to get connected, to increase their income. Most of the families, individuals that we serve, they are working. So it's just not able to meet the basic need requirements.
And again, part of that coordination, they may be able to serve them and use these funds, or we may be able to serve them through our emergency assistance funds, and that's why it's important that we coordinate, so that we're not duplicating services and reaching everybody that we can.
Yeah, it's maximizing.
Yep.
Yeah, we're trying to maximize the best we can.
All right, thank you. Does anybody got any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, we got a first and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
thank you very, very kindly.
Ladies.
Have a safe trip back.
All right,
Thanks. All right, I'm gonna ask Cindy to come up and do a long-term care financial assistance report.
Morning, Cindy.
Good morning, gentlemen.
So she did have some information in your packet on long-term care and healthcare services. And so I'm gonna turn it over to Cindy.
All right. For the most part, excuse me, it's a 3-year scope that I went with to show you how, for the healthcare unit, how MA cases have been moving from Maxis into the MET system, formerly known as MNsure. You can see that MA cases have dropped dramatically in Maxis and have increased dramatically in the MET system.
So maybe just to explain that a little bit. So we now have 2 computer systems that determine eligibility for recipients around healthcare. One being the METS, Minnesota Eligibility Technology System, which was formerly MNsure. It is basically just a computer system that allows us to determine eligibility. The state's trying to move more cases into the MET system because that's the new technology. It's come with growing pains and challenges. It's getting better.
And I did speak about that before, and we called that migration. If you remember, they're migrating from one system to the other. So that's what that's in reference to. I guess the biggest thing I really wanted to talk about today was the long-term care piece of it, and give you a little window into the large increase in applications for long-term care, and to, make you aware of the amount of time it takes to process a long-term care application as opposed to any other application. There's so much more involved in a long-term care app when we have to look at, all the assets someone's accumulated over their lifetime, because it's not just the poor that come to us for long-term care. It's people who have, saved and tucked things away, and now we have to look at, can we protect those assets for a spouse? Or are they gonna have to use those monies for their own care? Again, like I said, the applications have gone up. You can see that in March, we had 49 applications, and that's for 4 workers. And an application literally takes days to process, because when you first go over it, I don't know that I've ever had an application that's had everything there. So then it's, requesting more information, and then, of course, there's questions from those clients as to sometimes even why we need it, and getting exactly what we need can be difficult too. Sometimes we'll receive things where they've blacked out information, and that's the information we need to have. So then it's requesting the same information again. They, our elderly sometimes don't want to divulge that information.
So, Mr. Chair, excuse me, Cindy, I would love for you to walk, it would take us way too much time to walk us through a whole scenario, but are we talking about someone who, a mom and dad, let's just say, elderly, that are living on their own, and all of a sudden, one or both need long-term care? They probably, maybe, for the sake of argument, own a home, own a vehicle, own the contents of their home. That has to maybe go first?
That's actually a very typical scenario that you just cited there.
Okay.
One of them will generally end up in the nursing home.
Yep.
We can exclude the home if the spouse is going to be living in that home.
Okay.
Any personal possessions in the home are not counted, and they're allowed 1 vehicle. And then there's a process that we go through, it's called an asset assessment, and we determine all their assets, and then based on a formula, they're allowed to keep, the spouse is allowed to protect a certain amount of those assets.
Okay. And that's just one little teeny tiny scenario, I know, but that's just one of the teeny tiny ones that you deal with.
Right, but that is, like I say, a very typical scenario where you have a couple and something happens to one of them.
And if I
and
may,
ends
Mr.
up-
Chair, the dollar figure per month for long-term care, there's all over the map, you hear anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000. Do you have some numbers on that too, or?
I don't at this time. I can give you what I've seen in the past, and I'd be more than happy to put something together for you.
Seen in the past is fine.
To get anything for $5,000 now in a nursing home would be considered really affordable. I would say the average is upwards of $7,000 per month for care of anyone.
For one individual, so
Yes.
if you have a husband, wife in there, that would double, I'm assuming, or maybe they get a break. I don't know.
It depends if they can share a room or not. Sometimes that's not a actually, it's very seldom that we have a couple sharing a room in a nursing
So
home.
assets don't last very long.
Correct, correct.
It's a very good point, Commissioner. The assets do not last very long when you reach that stage in your life, and depending on what type of long-term care services you need.
And I think that's an important thing to remember about who it is we serve. And I think that, misconception often is the, people who aren't working or aren't in that, they're in that system, so to speak. But really, the vast amount of dollars that are out there are people who have, worked their entire life and get into a situation where it's unavoidable as we age that you need assistance, and that is who the bulk of the dollars go to serve.
Absolutely.
When you say you have a couple and the one's in the house yet, so you don't take the house, but do you take the value of the house, when the other couple's gone, then is the house the county's to pay for those bills?
You're talking about like filing a lien against
Well, I guess
against the
I'm saying
home?
if I have a house worth $100,000 and my wife's in a nursing home, when I die or go to a nursing home, then does the county get that $100,000 house?
Possibly.
Okay, just kind of, you don't need to get in depth,
We are,
but that's kind of
yeah,
how
we
it
are
works.
always looking for repayment
Yep,
of,
okay.
of monies.
Yep.
There's liens filed, paperwork filled out with DHS that we always try to recoup whatever we can.
And of course, if there is nothing more to recoup, that's what we pay taxes on. That's where that is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, okay.
I did give you some stats too on the Morrison County's people that are on what we call an MSP, Medicare Savings Programs. And that's where the county funds the Medicare premium for clients. So as you can see, a total of about 850 clients in Morrison County are having their Medicare premium paid for them. And there's separate income guidelines for that as well, and the asset limit for that is higher. They can have $20,000 in assets and still qualify, in countable assets, and still qualify for that program.
If I may ask a question on that,
Sure.
and I don't know if it's hearsay or whatever, but are people required, when we give that or that assistance for medical, are they required to pay that back? If they have property or something sometime, does that come back to?
For this specific program, no, not any longer. It used to be. It's been a couple of years now, though.
Okay.
We do not recoup monies from the Medicare savings programs, and those are all federal dollars that are being spent on this program.
However, somebody's on medical assistance, I think it's over the age of 55.
Correct?
When they pass away, when they pass away, we will take a look at their assets.
Okay, that's
and
probably what I'm talking about.
The
Yeah.
remaining assets.
Yep.
However, if the only program they were on was the Medicare savings, we wouldn't look at repayment of
Okay,
that.
okay.
And then
There are a lot of different programs and a lot of different rules for each
Right.
of those programs. It's amazing.
But I think the controversy a couple years ago was around people getting on medical assistance, and then the counties would put a lien against their property
Right, I think that's what I'm referring to.
after they passed away. And they do receive notice of that when they're going to apply for medical assistance if they're of a certain age. They would get notice of that any MA claims may be reimbursable based on assets they have.
it's actually one of the last lines on the application to read before signing it, that is a possibility.
Normally, people don't have a lot of assets left after they pass away in a long-term care facility. Probably typically more might be some of those that are maintaining in their home and pass away. And then you look at some of the waiver funds that were expended or other MA dollars aside from just going to your physician for a new knee or a new hip or whatever the case might be. And sometimes people don't understand that some of the in-home services are paid by medical assistance.
I also gave you a chart there of the active group residential housing, and you can see how that has increased exponentially since January of 2016. We had 115 residents then, and we now have 175 individuals in group residential housing. The next chart is just phone calls received per unit. The top is the calls per month, and then the bottom is individuals' calls answered per month per worker. But we have just one person on phones a day, so any worker can take between 30 and 65 calls in a day, just depending. And then the next was just some information I gave you about the aging population. It's going to get much worse before it gets better because us baby boomers are getting up there now. So there will be a lot more dollars spent on the elderly.
And time to process that. We've kind of talked a little bit about that whole idea that there are certain components of what we do in this organization that are very much impacted by aging population. And this is one of those areas.
Absolutely.
Cindy talked about, it takes one worker days and days to process one application. Now multiply that by a population that grows exponentially. And that's why it's so incumbent upon us to make sure that where we can save, we need to save, because there will be added costs. And that all comes with a price tag that you are then faced with determining when it comes to dollars for staff.
And finally, the last chart I have in there is the table showing you income limits for different types of population for healthcare programs. Any questions I can answer?
Probably all day long.
Yeah, exactly. How much time do you have?
But it
How much
really
time do
kinda-
you have?
It really kind of sounds like, though, if people get help from the county and there's assets available at the end of their life, the odds are the county will be able to recoup some of their giving throughout the year for that, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Not all programs, some don't have to pay nothing back, but on a just, if you have things available, we probably go after that.
And again, there are a lot of estate planners out there that
Yep.
can help manage
Yep,
your
yep,
assets
yep,
through the rest of your life. If individuals choose to do that, there are ways to protect those assets. But again, some of these, it's either they pay or everybody pays,
Yeah.
depending on their assets, so.
And if I may expand on that, we do get calls from people asking about those kinds of things, and that is something we do not answer. We are not financial planners.
Right.
Nor can we give them a financial planner's
How
name.
can I hide my money?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
There's a
But we
lot
do
of-
tell them they can seek that out,
Yeah.
but we won't recommend anyone either.
It really boils down to pre-planning.
Correct?
Yep.
That's what it all does. If you don't pre-plan, it's done.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Well, and it costs a lot of money. I mean, we've seen those statistics before where just the 33,000 residents in Morrison County, there's about $70 million spent for care or through programs. Much of that is through elderly care. That's a lot of money for just one county. Now, think larger picture throughout the United States. That's a huge cost.
I was just gonna say, if I remember correctly, I think it's 61% of all human services money dedicated to public assistance programs goes to healthcare for elderly.
The one thing that I would say that we do recommend individuals who ask us about managing their assets is if you have assets, we allow them to purchase burial policy or pre-plan their burial and can pay for that other assets and not have that go towards their care. So that's one thing that we will recommend to individuals when they come in asking, what can I do with my assets to make sure they're useful or can be protected, so.
Yeah, because they're given 30 days to spend down assets, and that is, we will give them a list of possible ways to reduce assets. And as Brad said, that's the first go-to. People will buy burial policies. So that, in turn, saves the county money too, because we're not funding county burials later.
well, thank you for all the help you do though, because people do need it. You know, a lot of people just don't know where to go or what to do. And it's nice when you can help them lay out a plan that, here's the procedures you need, so
Yep.
I thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
All right, I do have a couple things under the public health report.
You're done with social services.
Yes, done with social services, and I'll move on to the public health
Public
report.
health.
The first request is a motion to approve the liquor license renewal applications. There are 7 of them, and I think we can do them all in one motion.
I would so move on them, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
we've got a motion by Commissioner Johnson,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. We then have a request to approve a temporary one-day liquor license to the Bethany Lutheran Church in Raby to hold an event on July 9th, and the sheriff has approved these.
Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And then I believe, yes, we have change in ownership of 2 board and lodge licenses, food, beverage, and lodging licenses. Kentucky Fried Chicken Low Falls is moved from Watland Partners to Argonaut Food Partners, and then the Piers Mobile Home Park has changed ownership. And so we need to approve those licenses and change in ownership.
So move.
Got a motion by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. And then the last thing in your packet is a request to approve a catering license for Herbie's Bar. Along with the license, I'm going to ask the board if they would be willing to waive the catering licensing fee of $482. Cindy Niedaber, Michelle Warnberg, Deb Gruber and I had an email conversation about this. As you may know, they lost their facility about a little over a week ago. They did actually pay for all of their licenses on January 1st of this year to total $687. So along with the motion approving the license, if I could get a motion to waive the license if the board would so approve that.
We have the license fee.
Waive the
I would so
licensing fee.
move on them, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
we have a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
That's all I have today.
That's
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Have a good day.
You bet.
Okay, Veterans Report. Kathy, good morning.
Good morning, Kathy.
It's like I haven't been here in a while. Oh my God.
Well, you haven't.
I know, I know. So just a few of the things that we've been going on, or what we've had going on. So I've been out talking to different veterans organizations, as I normally do, and also doing some informational sessions at some of them, which has been helpful at the auxiliaries and VFWs, Legions type things. I've started talking, like having community people come in, and I talk about benefits and just kind of explaining in detail a little bit more about what we offer. So Hillman, I did some of that, and Randall. As far as our World War I records, those are all over at the Historical Society, so those are actually physically over there. We will work on getting our World War II records over there, and then Korean and some of the Vietnam records as well. That way then we don't need them stored here, but we just got to get everything organized, and that's been just kind of put on the back plate in the last couple months, and now we're finally getting to the point where we can continue working with
Kathy, are
that.
you talking paper records? I'm
Yep.
assuming that that's what you're talking about.
Yep, so they're just, we've got like old discharge paperwork, and then if they filed for any type of veterans benefits. And we can, do we have to hang on to them? No, after 10 years, you can actually technically destroy them, but they are kind of a nice piece of history that I don't know that I want to have them totally gone. And they are in St. Louis as well, so but it's just, we do find that families sometimes want to do some research, and so now we can just send them over to the Historical Society for that. And then I went to the CVSO conference. That's always a good informational thing, and we have 2 of those a year, and that's very helpful. We just get all the updates on things that are going on, and I spoke down in St. Paul. I was on a panel for women veterans programs, and I will be touching on that a little bit later, but this Sunday I'll actually be talking down in St. Paul, spend most of my day at, they have a film that they're making on women veterans. Basically, it's like that reintegration and what it's like when you come back, things that we have to deal with in the military as far as being a female, like myself being a first female in an engineering company running construction operations in a combat zone. What is that like for a woman? And then coming back, you know, things like your children not knowing who you are, or those kinds of things, and just if there's traumatic things, talking about those and PTSD and stuff. So it's quite an honor and really neat to share the story and also show how you work through those things. And now that I'm helping other people, it's kind of a neat thing to do. So great thing to be involved with. And some other things that there's a new claims process that's coming out. It's called Decision Ready Process for Claims. And so basically what that is someone comes in for a compensation claim. Right now it can take up to a year. They're working on a program that will, it's a pilot program in Minnesota, and I'm one of the people that's starting to try this program where we could turn around a claim in 30 days. So far, I haven't seen it really working, but you know, it's a work in progress, I guess. But it was one of those things that I participated in the training, and now trying to get that to work for us. And let's see, Luann, I try to get the employees out doing different things here and there so that they get the opportunity to work with other veteran service officers and things. And Luann went up to Brainerd and worked with the stand down. Stand downs are basically for homeless veteran programs or people that are struggling financially. They have these, they give out a lot of free stuff. They have free haircuts, free legal advice. And they also give out information about the different programs the VA offers. So it's kind of, they've been doing them in St. Cloud. Now they're hosting it last couple of years in Brainerd. So it's kind of a neat thing too. And Luann enjoyed going to that and participating in it. And met the new director of the St. Cloud VA. The other guy retired. And so hopefully I'm optimistic about things going very well and continuing the great health care that they do provide in St. Cloud. So I think things will grow and prosper there. Definitely a good future. And I still have been doing the VSO visits out at Camp Ripley. Sometimes I sit out there and there's absolutely nobody, and then the next time you have one after the other. So it's just really hit and miss, and I do it when I can. If I'm super busy, then I just don't go out there that month, and I have an email distribution that they send out, or I'll say, is there anyone that does need to visit with me, and then I'll just visit, maybe there's 2 or 3 people, and then I'm only out there for those people. So. And then let's see, what else? I didn't get to take part in a whole lot of the community health assessment program, but later on when I talk about concerns and issues, there were some things that I noticed that they were talking about in there and that we're seeing as concerns and issues in the Veterans Society. And updating my radio ads, you'll hear me during a lot of the sports events. I've got some new ads coming out and with our outreach grant, and so those are going well. And I've got our new employee, Jim. He's been participating in some of the VA programs training, so we're getting him on the road to getting accredited and being able to access all the programs that I can, which is really neat. So if I'm not in the office, we have someone else who can answer questions as quickly as, not that, I mean, Luann can answer a lot of questions, but she, because she's not a veteran, can't access some of the programs that I can. So this has been a great opportunity, and he seems to be doing a great job. He just, seems to get along with people well. People really enjoy having him around, so it's been a great addition and a nice change, so happy about that. And then, let's see, what else have our yellow ribbon, Dwayne and I've been talking, it's been really hit and miss the last couple months. We had a great yellow ribbon network here in Morrison County, but I think that everyone that's participating as part of the yellow ribbon network, everybody's been busy, and so you see one or two people at the meetings, and hopefully we pick that up again and that starts going better. Basically, the Yellow Ribbon Network is just a program that helps families, more so as they're geared towards the military families and helping them with efforts. And then some of the concerns that I have that I've been seeing the last couple months, and I'm thinking I'm probably seeing more of it because of the cold weather rule. You start seeing a little bit of the homelessness. It was interesting when I walked in here and I'm like, wow, other departments were all seeing the same thing. And we've all been working together on a lot of the shared clients because we've seen some of the same issues. But housing has been a huge concern. And the Minnesota Assistance Council director for Veterans director came and visited, and we walked around, we went up to the newest home, and we just talked about the options we have in the Little Falls, Morrison County area as far as housing. There's not a lot. And they're looking at maybe having some housing for veterans throughout the state of Minnesota and definitely working on some of these rural areas. That would be helpful. I think that it's hard. It's hard because sometimes we've got people that are struggling for a lot of reasons, and it puts them in this financial crisis situation. I see a lot of behavioral issues. Drug abuse is huge. I've had people coming in my office, and of course we can't test them and say that's the issue, but a lot of times you start seeing the behaviors and seeing issues, and you're like, okay, this is what's going on. I think some of it is not maybe illegal drugs, but it's also, I think that people are going, and it's almost like bar hopping, but they're going to clinics and they're hopping for getting their different types of drugs. I mean, the VA definitely, I go there. If I say my knee hurts, would you like this? I could come home with a stack of medications. It's sad. It's not good. And I think that people are probably going there and they're getting medications. They're coming to Little Falls getting medication. They start mixing these things, and the results are horrible. And then pretty soon that they're jobless, they're homeless. It just keeps going on and on and on. And they're in trouble and different things like that. I mean, a week ago, I had to go and push my panic button. Not necessarily that I was afraid, but I really wanted to get the person help. I really wanted to have someone from law enforcement escort them to somewhere where they could get checked in and get the help they need. But the hard, frustrating part is they have to want to do it. You can't physically make someone go and get help, and it's frustrating. So I think we're all dealing with the same things, housing issues. There's definitely some drug abuse issues that are in the area and behavioral issues, and it's just a revolving circle. So it's good that we have people in the community working on these things, I think, but we have a lot of work to do, that's for sure. But on the positive side, a good thing, we've seen a lot of new people in the last couple of months, and actually the last year, it's been really good. Our numbers continue to grow. Some of the things that I've had a lot of reports that have come out through the state of Minnesota that get sent to me, and our county is doing extremely well. We are growing numbers. We are getting people the most benefits for the benefits that they deserve. We get people the most money that they deserve. We're like number 2, even on some of the reports that I get, we're number 1 in the state of Minnesota, our office. So we're doing a really good job asking the right questions to get people the benefits that they need. So that's pretty honorable. I didn't even realize we were doing it until all of a sudden I'm like, look at this. We rock. And let's see. But yeah, we've been getting people from other counties too. So that means either they're hearing about what we do, which is good and bad. I mean, it gets you to be a little bit busier some days and stuff. But I encourage them. I want them to go to their county too. But I'm certainly not going to deny anyone, benefits or services either. And our grants for the outreach grant, we're going to be turning in the reports for that Working on those and should have them done by the end of the week. And then the other big event that's really cool, so if anyone on the 4th of July is going out to Hillman, my daughter and myself and my niece, who is also a Marshik, so we have 3 branches of service, the Marines, Army, and Air Force will be in our uniforms in the Hillman Parade this year, so that's really cool. Not that it had anything to do with anything, but I'm really excited about it, so.
And it'll be 95 degrees.
It will be, and we're all gonna hate it. My niece and my daughter will be like, "What did you make us do?"
How come?
And I think we'll have maybe Jerry Marshik from, he was in the Navy, so if we can get 4 branches, that'd be really cool.
Good.
But,
Very good.
any questions or
Anybody have any
anything?
questions?
Thank you for all you do and keep the good work up.
Thanks for the update.
Thanks.
Thank you much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Eddie.
Dan, extension report.
And then it's break then.
Yeah, we'll get him out of here.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dan.
All right. It's all up, everybody's ready to go.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll give it a try. So, here's some highlights from some things. In Becky's report, I guess I'm just gonna pick out a couple things that are highlights to me, and you can ask Becky about some of the rest of it, and same with some of the other reports, okay? Because that's what I know. So, the third bullet down is the safety day camp that was held in May with 150 fifth graders out at the fairgrounds, learning about a variety of things listed there. And so Beth and Emily and I all helped to teach that. Emily taught the livestock safety piece, I taught the lawnmower safety piece, and Beth taught a lesson on entrapment. That's like being caught in flowing grain or being caught in dirt that's caving in a ditch or other kinds of places, and some of those kinds of things. So that's always a very interesting opportunity to interact with fifth graders and see what they're thinking about, and to work with their teachers and cover some topics that we hope make a difference in their life. The lawnmower safety one continues to be very intriguing to me as I watch the neighbor across the road put his 1.5-year-old child on his lap and roam around and duck trees and around the corner of the house and other kinds of things while he's mowing lawn. And then I saw another neighbor this week as I was driving home that was mowing lawn, and it's got kind of a nice slope that he had another little child about a year and a half old on, and up and down this hill mowing the grass. And it's really fun and it's really cute, but it's really hazardous. And so I still have not worked up the courage to stop and talk to a neighbor and say, "You sure you want to be doing that?" But it was also interesting on this particular day that I hadn't heard about this yet, but there was a family here in Morrison County who had a child that got hurt that was riding in the back of a zero-turn mower and fell off, and that's a really sad deal and a really hard thing for that family. And but a really good, not a really good, and a significant, I'll say, a significant opportunity for all of us to learn and think about the choices that we're making and what we're doing with some of these things. Not just with lawnmowers, but with a lot of other things in life too. And then the next bullet is about camp counselors, and the next bullet is about ambassadors. And as I watch this in Benton County, I know it works the same way in Morrison counties. Some of these older, younger kids who are taking leadership roles in the 4-H program and working with younger kids and mentoring, really a significant thing. We have a 4-H summer assistant in the Benton County office this summer, and she came up through that experience of being an ambassador and being a camp counselor and doing some of these things now as a real leadership role in our summer, directing some of those activities this summer. And it's really phenomenal to see the growth in those kids as they work through some of those opportunities. So we'll flip the page. And the picture here reflects one of my major activities in May, and that's doing our alfalfa harvest alert project. Just trying to help farmers stay tuned to what's this hay crop like, and when do we anticipate harvesting this, and what kind of feed might we get, and how do we dance between the rain showers. And so we did that again this year. And with the cool weather that we had in May, it was really interesting to watch, because cool weather typically means that we should not have as much fiber in the hay. We should have higher digestibility in the hay. If it stays cool, even though we're delayed in harvesting because of rain, we still ought to have a chance, hopefully, to make some pretty good hay. And I think that kind of happened that way. And it was it was encouraging to see some of those quality parameters kind of hanging up there, even though the calendar was ticking away. And it was a cool spring for that. So we did that project again this year, and then the pictures are about one of the fields that I sample is on a farm that's very adamant about not cutting alfalfa after the 1st of September because it gives it a better chance to build root reserves and survive the winter, so he's very serious about that, but that also means there's a fair amount of old crop residue left in the alfalfa yet the following spring. And this spring, probably with very little snow to really compact that old crop residue, he probably had as much old crop residue up in the hay as I've ever seen on his farm. And so I did some sampling where I would take 2 samples. One, I'd pick all the old crop residue out so we could see what the alfalfa was really like, and one where I left the old crop residue in so we could see what that mix was like. And we hope that as the new crop grows, the quality gets better and better because the old crop is a smaller portion of it. And the sampling did kind of look that way, and so I'm looking forward to some more conversations with the farm as they start to feed that, to see how the cows really handled it and how their nutrition advisor worked with that ration and how that turned out for the cows. On the next page, a couple comments about planting progress. It was kind of a challenging spring in some ways. We've had worse springs, but we definitely saw some winter injury around the area, and some alfalfa fields were being plowed up. We also saw just, a couple of little windows to plant some crop. There was one window between the first week in May and Mother's Day where some corn got planted, and then wet, cold weather after that really compacted soils, and some of the corn crop did not come up very well. So there was some significant replanting being done, and in a few cases there was some really wet ground that people were not able to plant, that they were requesting prevented planting payments from their insurance company if they carried that coverage. So kind of a challenge this year getting in the crop. Some of it was kind of mudded in, so it's going to be interesting to see if soil compaction is going to have an impact on root development that also could have an impact on yield, or what we're really going to come up with for yields this year compared to the last 2 record-breaking kind of years that we've had. There's also a note there at the bottom about financial stress resources. The Minnesota Extension Service got a grant during the winter and started a program offering financial counseling to farmers who felt that they were in financial stress and wanted some help with that. They have about 4 retired farm business management instructors from around Minnesota who are helping with that work now. And so people are thinking, man, I kind of got my back against the wall financially. I'm not sure what I really ought to be doing, how I ought to see my way through this. They can call that 1-800 number and they can get some help with looking at that. And they are getting some participants in that, doing some work with that also. So that's another significant thing that is underway. The next page is Emily's, and she mentions a couple works in doing some curriculum related to strategic planning for dairy farms. She and Jim Sulfur are working on some curriculum to help farmers kind of look at their dairy farm, what's working, what's not strategically, what kind of steps should I be taking to maintain some financial strength and viability in the farm operation. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds, and that's one of the projects that she's working on. She also has a dairy tour that's not listed on here that she's worked on planning. The dairy tour in Morrison County will be with the Holtz brothers on July 19th, and so you can watch for that date, news releases about that. And something that happened in June, not May, but we're here, so we might also mention it. Give credit where it's due. The Morrison County Dairy Breakfast in the Farm this year was held on June 10th and was held out at the Roger and Craig and Steve Rourke Farm. They had somewhere around 1,200 people that attended out there, so it was a phenomenal turnout, and the Rourkes did a really nice job of hosting that. It was really fun and interesting to help with that, lead some tours, talk to people, hear what they're thinking about some things. Just a tremendous program that's going on in many counties around Minnesota now to help the general public learn about how dairy farms work these days. And you always hear comments from people, I had no idea farmers had to know that much, or that they use that much technology or computers, or what they know, what their vets know and what their feed reps are doing to try to get things right for the cows. It's really, people really see a lot of things that are really different for them. Then Beth is working on a variety of things, and I don't have too much to pick out of there right now, but she spends part of a day regularly here at the county office in Morrison County, and I know she's working on a bunch of stuff. We also have an intern in the office this summer. Her name is Haley Lighting. She's from southeastern Minnesota, from a dairy farm down there, and working with Emily and I and Beth, primarily with Beth and some of her horticulture work that really piles up in the summertime. And so she's helping us with a variety of tasks through the summer. And then Carmen mentions a few things in here that she's working on. You're probably more familiar with some of this work than I am. Just getting out to some schools, Morrison County Area Food Shelf Board, meeting with groups like that to stay connected with those issues and how we're eating healthy and getting people more information to help them make good choices about what we're eating. So I'll let it go at that, unless you have other questions or comments.
Great information.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Always a good job.
Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break,
Sounds good to me.
and then we will come back and finish up.
We'll come back with more than ever before.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Amy.
Okay, I have a couple of things for you today. The first one is a resolution that I'm bringing forward to elect jurisdiction of the Minnesota buffer law. We spoke about this at our last planning session, and the consensus was at that time that we were going to elect the jurisdiction, and then with that then would come the funding from the Board of Soil and Water Resources for the administration of that enforcement.
Can we get a motion on that?
I would so move on that.
Okay, I got a motion by Commissioner Johnson,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion?
Yes, and Amy, we can get out of it any time, right?
That's what we've been told
Okay.
by Bowser.
Okay.
Yes, and so this
Yeah.
is something that if we opt in now, we don't give up our ability to opt out at a
Right.
later time.
And then we talked about it at planning, like you said. But
Yes.
it's that local control, so.
And Mr. Chair, Amy, can we opt back in?
Yes.
If we opt out?
Yes, it sounds like we are able to opt in and out as we feel appropriate. So that's what we've been told, at
So without
least.
sounding crazy, we could opt in today.
Correct.
We could opt out tomorrow. We could opt in the next day and
Yep.
opt out.
Turn yourself around.
Yeah, exactly, and do the hokey pokey. But I mean, how, do you know? I mean, there's gotta be a limit on that. Nobody's gonna be doing that.
That hasn't been discussed. I think this is a new law,
Yeah.
so we are, we're going as we, going along as we know to do, very similar to the AIS program
Okay.
that we
Okay.
have taken on. So that, what's been communicated to us from Bowser is, yes, we do have the option to opt in and then at a later date opt out or vice versa.
And we did spend a lot of time talking about this, and to me, it comes to local control.
Mr. Chair, and the funding is a biennium funding, so it is a 2-year cycle, and so that helps with planning purposes, because anytime you're dealing with management of an organization and staffing and all that, you wanna be able to think a little longer term, so at least we know what the funding source is for at least a couple of years.
Yes.
We can be comfortable with
So that being said, in the funding source, 2 years,
Yep.
2 years from now, there is no funding source. Could we at that point in time, and I'm just talking, could we then say, Bowser, take it over?
Yes, that's my understanding of what I've been told.
Until things change.
And I think there was 131,000 for this year and 167 or something, or
Yes,
171 for
that's
next year.
ballpark,
And so
yes.
that's kind of why we're doing this along with the local control. So that, and if the money's not there, the odds are we wouldn't do it.
And I agree, like Mr. Johnson said too, Commissioner Johnson, to keep it local, because otherwise if you have somebody from Bowser, they have no idea who is involved, so at least if we keep it here, it helps us, confirm, if somebody happens to be not following the buffer.
Well, Mr. Chair, that falls in line with all of the other programs you've elected to take.
Sure.
Like our delegated feedlot program, same thing. So this really does follow that same line of thinking.
Okay, could I get a motion to, oh, we already did a motion and second?
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
And then, Mr. Chair, with that, what we will be doing and working on is development of a job description, and working to move forward that process along with the development of an ordinance in which
Right.
you would then have to adopt and move forward with.
So we'll
that
place all of that
document.
in motion, and we'll have some future discussion about all of that.
Lot more to come.
Yes, yes,
We've got plenty of
absolutely.
things to do, and now there's just one more.
Yes, it keeps me out of trouble, that's for sure. The second item I have for you is approval of out-of-state travel for our GIS specialist to attend the Schneider Corporation conference in August in Iowa. Per personnel policy, any out-of-state travel must be approved by the board.
I'll move on this, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
You'll
you.
get registered for that. And then just one thing that I wanna just let you know is that our online permit program is public facing now, so it is available to the public to apply for permits online, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we do have the ability to accept credit card payments. And so we have that link online. Just wanted to let you know that that is out there, and I think will be a lot of added convenience to people. It'll save them a trip into our office to apply for their
Not that you know
permits.
this, but are you the only agency under this roof that has that right now?
Credit card or an online permitting program?
Credit card.
I believe we are, as far as for permit payment.
I'm kind of looking at Deb and she's saying,
Yes.
we're
We do
getting
have a
close.
few other departments, Mr. Chair, that do accept credit cards, but those are legislatively
Okay.
approved.
Okay.
So this is our maiden voyage into credit card acceptance. So,
Excellent. Thank you.
Sounds good.
all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Are you in today, Amy?
I am here all day.
Okay, sounds good. Auditors report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, gentlemen, ladies.
Good morning, Deb.
We have a couple of raffle requests. The Falls Ballroom, September 22nd for the Deer Hunters Association, and April 14th of next year for the food shelf.
So moved.
You got a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, and I'm gonna sneak in a new one here. This just happened this morning. If you remember, we've been discussing this for a while. We had a forfeited property on the west side that we had started the eviction process for. This just kind of goes through the whole process. She had actually stopped paying way back in 2006, entered a confession of judgment with us. We stopped that in 2016 because she wasn't paying. We've been in constant contact with her several times a week, all year. But we just haven't been able to get the payment process going. So in early May, we started the eviction process, went to court with her. June 6th, we had an eviction hearing. Judge told her, you're either out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, or we go back and have another hearing. And we will have a writ and tell you when to get out. But she actually came in with her son yesterday, sat down with me, and she was able to come up with some funding, came in this morning and paid off everything that she owed. So, with your approval, she would like to pay that off. We would need a board resolution for the application to repurchase that forfeited property, and then send it in so that she could get her name back on the property and order the deed.
Is there a reason we would need to act on that today, or can we wait until this is all complete and we have time to make sure the check clears and do that next board meeting?
In order for, I guess it's not extremely critical, but, in order to avoid the court hearing and just to kind of keep things flowing, we wanted to just kind of keep it moving.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'm agreeing with Deb on this one. Because the fact that if something happens, we've been giving her chances since 2006.
Yep.
And we take a check or whatever it may be, and all of a sudden it doesn't happen to go through and we agree to it.
Right,
Now do
and-
we have to start this whole process?
And we do
over?
not, Mr. Chair, we do not order the deed until the check clears. The check is not written on her bank account. It is from somebody else.
Somebody else, could be me, you, but again, I think, my personal thing, I'd like to wait to make sure the money's good.
Oh, right, and this would be, the resolution would be providing that the check clears, and we never order the deed without the check clearing. That's our process.
I would think 2 weeks won't hurt nothing to wait.
But I
will it?
believe it's 3 weeks
Or
before
3
we have
weeks?
another board hearing,
3 weeks.
and I don't know how that
Spend
affects
12
our
years.
eviction
If I may,
process.
do we have the check or money order in hand at this time?
We do, it's in
I
the
can
office.
just dismiss the hearing if the
Okay.
check clears. That's not an issue, or continue it.
Yeah, it's not hard to change that schedule, I would imagine.
Yeah, I agree with Randy. I
Right.
think it would be best to wait till.
But I don't believe we can actually cash the check until we have the resolution. I believe is the process.
Oh, well,
That'd be a Brian question.
That's your process.
Right. And well, no,
Oh.
I believe that that's the process on how this goes, is we get your resolution, and then we go cash the check, and if for some reason that check doesn't clear, this all becomes null and void.
Well, I gotta be honest with you, Mr. Chair, this isn't, and no disrespect,
Nope.
this is not a resolution.
No, this is
Right,
not, we
right,
have the,
right, no, I know that.
we have the official document over here with Tabitha, this is just the background information.
Right.
Mr. Chair, Brian hasn't had a chance to look into this, I haven't had a chance to look into it. I don't know for sure what we need to do, so I can't speak intelligently on it at all, and I don't know if
can't
Brian's
either.
prepared
Just
either.
Found out about this an
Well,
hour ago. Typically, we'd like to have the resolution in hand before we vote on it. I assume you'd all be more comfortable with that, so,
So
I'm
the
thinking
scenar-
you would too, or not?
well, yes.
Thank you.
Well, in the scenario here, then, we just have to wait for 3 weeks to cash the
We
check
would
too.
have to wait for 3 weeks to cash the check too.
And Mr. Chair, it's been a decade.
Yeah, it's been
so-
12 years, so I don't think
3
3
weeks
weeks.
isn't gonna hurt.
Yeah.
So it's done right.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do that, and we will, I'll take the time to look at it, and we will be prepared then at the next board meeting, which should be July 11th, I think.
Is there any
So-
downside to this, Deb, that you see, except just time?
Yeah, the waiting 3 weeks, if we can clear it off the hearing schedule, that shouldn't be a problem.
And if you may, could you double check, because it doesn't seem like if we could even cash the check, it sounds like you're kind of gray in that one. Because if the resolution doesn't, if the check doesn't go through, why are we doing the resolution? But why are we doing the resolution if the check is, see what I'm saying? It's like, you can't do one without the other, so why couldn't we?
Yeah, I'll verify that,
I
but
would
yeah.
like to see that.
I suppose the question really is payment made when the check clears or when they give it to you?
Exactly.
You know, I don't know what the definition of that is, but I'm sure it's different.
So what we have is an application for repurchase of forfeited lands. So essentially, again, this is just off the cuff because I saw this 2 minutes ago, but the process looks as if it's going through this forfeited process and you need to then approve that they can repurchase it, because it's beyond the point where it allows a property owner to be able to repurchase it during that forfeiture process. So because it's beyond a certain point, it's now, you have to grant specific permission to be able to allow that repurchase to happen, but I would like that all verified maybe a little bit.
They have the right to repurchase up until the point that we sell it.
And there are processes with the bank, if we could get some guaranteed funds or something like that with the check, maybe we can look into making sure that that clears, or there's a way to house that funding in a way that, I think that
Okay.
could maybe be a question we could get answered or proceed with in the next 3 weeks if we know that those funds are guaranteed. That certainly would make, I think, it more comfortable. But,
Yeah,
but I don't know if there's a process or not, but maybe we can ask those questions
I
and see
can
what
ask,
can
yep.
happen.
And what you really want to make sure is the court thing is,
Right,
and you'll
I don't
take
want-
care of
And
that.
that's,
Yeah, as long as we got the.
Okay,
Right.
I just didn't, I didn't want to hold that up.
So, okay, thank
But
you.
it's good news.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, very
It is good news.
Yeah, very good.
Absolutely.
She has been able to come up with something and we don't have to
Yeah, very
belabor
good.
this
Stay in
now.
your home.
That was the one that was causing us ongoing issues.
That's kind of wild. Good
And
for
the
her.
final thing I have then is warrants, Mr. Chair.
So move on the warrants,
We've got
Mr. Chair.
a motion from Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. This is a roll call. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
And aye. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Deb.
much. Public Works.
Morning, Tom.
Morning, Tom.
Morning, Tom.
Chuck sent you up here all by yourself. huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you backed out at the last minute. Yeah, there he goes.
He's looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Making faces from the back. Oh, nice.
Sorry, Chuck.
This is the second RBA that
I'm
we're
not
gonna
sure if
present at the
Tom brought
board
Chuck or if
meeting.
Chuck brought Tom.
And then there's the
Not
first
possible.
one, what should be in your packet, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
Okay.
so
274, yes.
when you're ready, I can get started.
You're-
You ready? Okay. The first RBA is for, to let you know that we opened bids. And we opened them June 8th. And what happened was when we opened them, we read everybody's bid off, so that, kind of like how we normally do things. And then it came time to check the bids, and one of the bids did not have a unit price for mobilization. So that's grounds for rejection of a bid. And so Steve decided, okay, we're gonna have to reject this bid because they didn't, complete the proposal process. So the first RBA is to take care of that business, is to reject Guam Construction, the bid, because they did not do the proper execution.
I'd make a motion on that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Lemire.
Yes.
Is this gonna be a roll call?
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna do that just to make sure we're right. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
And aye.
Thank you. And then the second one is to look at the bids, and I gave you the packet, which includes the abstracted bids so that you can see, and Guam's would not be on there because it was rejected, but the other bidders are on there, and you'll see that we got some good bids there. I believe Marvin Treader is the apparent low bidder, and they're slightly below the engineer's estimate, which is always a good thing. And we got some above. So we got a variety of bids.
Very good.
And the work, I don't know if you're familiar with what job this is, but it's a local contract for, we're gonna use county CASA maintenance money to do an improvement on a profile of County Road 11. And taking that dirt and improving all the entrances along there. That's one project, and the next project is to replace the bridge on County Road 268. And the third project is, the township elected to go with the bid. We gave them the option to opt out if the bids came in too high. And their engineer's estimate, it came in a little bit above the estimate for the two townships to replace the box. But they all agreed to do it. So we have their permission to award that one also, a concurrence. So then after looking at the bids, we have a resolution to make the award to the low bidder. So if you're accepting that.
And Mr. Chair, Tom, excuse me.
Can I have a
You're
motion?
gonna make a motion, go
Can I
ahead.
have a motion
Yeah,
on
I was
that?
gonna make
Okay,
a
I got a
motion on
motion by Commissioner Johnson,
I'll second
seconded
it.
by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, Tom, obviously, you guys have gone through these with a fine tooth comb, and this meets all the specs that you wanted to. That's the only question that I would have.
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, we checked the bids.
Yes.
And we have somebody check the checker.
To check the
Yeah.
checker.
Good with me.
So,
Oh, that's good. And they still get by sometimes.
You never know.
yeah, sometimes.
Okay, let me see, we got a motion and a second.
And roll call vote,
Yep,
please.
and a roll call vote. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Winch.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
And aye.
You could call me
Yeah, I don't know why I do that, but it's deserving.
Thank you very much, that's all I have, and I.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. I hope you come back again one day.
Really?
You don't come here very often.
I know, Steve.
Steve talks so much longer.
Sorry.
Sorry for the harassment, but not really, you know.
Morning, Chuck.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioners, staff, and guests.
Morning, Chuck.
First request for board action for solid waste, if approved, will provide for the 10-year update to the Morrison County Solid Waste Management Plan. Morrison County has created a solid waste management system that protects the environment, provides for corrective actions, and offers county residents long-term, cost-effective waste management. The system ranges from our no-cost household hazardous waste program to our state-of-the-art bioreactive landfill, coupled with numerous recycling programs. Today, the Director of Public Works is requesting a motion to adopt a resolution for the adoption of our 10-year update to the Morrison County 2017 Solid Waste Management Plan. The resolution is on the screen.
I'll move on this,
Okay,
Mr.
we
Chair.
have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski,
I'll
seconded
second.
by Commissioner Winchell. Is there any further discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, we've talked about this at length.
Yep.
And, you know, and I'm just gonna comment again regarding the landfill. If nobody ever goes to the landfill and takes a look at it, you would have no idea that it's even there. It's a well-run machine. I'm impressed every time I go out there.
Oh, same here.
Thank you, Commissioners.
This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
And aye. Opposed? Okay.
Good deal. All right, and then we have,
Yeah.
Second request is for a motion to authorize the approval of a 2017 solid waste hauler license for Tom Kramer Incorporated, and this is for the remainder of the 2017
So moved.
licensing period.
Got a motion by Commissioner Winchell, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners, staff.
Good job, Chuck. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know if I had to say motion carries on a roll call.
I started throwing you off. when
Yeah,
started
you
calling
did. You
me
kind of
Winchell.
threw me when I called you Winchell, yeah. Okay. Administrators report.
all right, just a few updates. I don't have any action items, but I have been able to meet with both the correction officer, LELS, law enforcement labor services group, and the dispatch group. As we've mentioned, those are the two contracts that we have outstanding at this point in time, and I do believe we have a tentative agreement. They're going to vote. I will be bringing those as soon as I can, hopefully by our next board meeting, to be able to complete that and move forward. Anytime we have open contracts, it's always one of those it takes time, it takes effort to get that done, so I'll be happy to take that off my plate. And provided that all works, everything falls in line to what we've done with other groups in the past year. So that's moving forward. We have extended the invitation, as you indicated, or requested last time, to area legislators. Did get response from Senator Gazelka's office that one of his aides could come if you're interested in that. He wasn't able to make a board meeting, but I can schedule that if you would like to still have that. Or if you want to wait and see if you can find some time with him, maybe later in the year, but this summer was booked for him, so.
I don't think it hurts at all to have one of those people come here.
We can schedule that, absolutely. So we will have, is that kind of a consensus? Am I getting?
That's just me.
I'm hearing,
That's
yeah.
just me, folks.
I'd like to see the Mr. Paul himself, you know, I guess that's, but that's my opinion.
I
So
guess,
maybe-
I think we should have a meeting when we have a thing laid out where we have some issues that we'd like to talk about and do, and I'd like to do it with Paul. I mean, as far as an aide coming and giving us an update on what happened
Right.
today, you know, we hear it on the news every day.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion.
Cause I think
I agree.
Representative
I'm good
Creasy
with
was, had a call in today, right?
Yeah, he did. He was calling
Yeah.
on the radio station.
Well, why don't we just continue to try to schedule at some point throughout the year that we actually get Representative Creasy and Senator Gazelka, and I envision once that's scheduled, we certainly would reach out to departments to bring forward specific areas that they have questions or concerns.
Then we can put a couple hours away for each one.
Absolutely.
So yes, we will look to do that. And maybe we can reach out and schedule maybe just a different meeting too, if it doesn't work on Tuesday mornings,
Oh,
that
yeah,
might
that
be
would
something
be
that's a
fine.
problem, but,
Whatever. Yep.
we will work on that. Maybe not the summer months, I know they're busy with scheduling, but we'll try to get something when it works, prior to next session perhaps. We have, I had just a crazy weird dream last night about the staff in my office. But I think it's because we're gonna go through a transition with Barb leaving on Friday. So we've been busy working on making sure we get that knowledge base transferred. The new person, Melissa Sineski, is who we hired, and she's going to be starting July 5th, right after the holiday. And so we'll have that transition occurring and work through this summer to get her up to speed and bring her on board and part of our team.
Barb will be missed though.
Yeah, she's always pleasant and has been a joy to work with in terms of, you can count on her doing everything she can to get jobs done. She'll be there early, she'll do what it is you ask, and so yes, somebody like that on your team is going to be missed when she goes, but I'm happy for her. And
Absolutely.
also am happy for the influence that she has been able to impart on her children, because we have both of them working here and a spouse, and you know, it's one of those very neat things about small communities that when you get good people and good families, sometimes you can have that expand. So I think Morrison County wins.
I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'll say it anyway. She said she's been here 34 years.
She's been here a while. Done a lot. Done a lot. So yeah. So that's a transition and continue to maybe have weird dreams until the end of the summer when everything settles down a little bit. But yeah, busy doing our thing. I don't know that there's anything else from me. Is there anything that you all are waiting for or looking for from administration that we can maybe work on?
Sounds like you want me to do the committee report, so we don't have to keep.
I'm making up things to say because awkward silence kills me, so I have to babble. Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, committee reports. Jeff, Commissioner Jelinski, would you go first, please?
And you can also call me Jeff.
Yeah, I know,
It's
but-
okay.
As long as you don't call you Jelinski.
Exactly. No, you can call me that. As long as you don't call me late for supper, I'm good. So I believe we start on the 26th.
Yes. June 26th through July 15th.
So, on the 26th at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I've got a Stand Up For You meeting. I believe that's at the middle school. And at 7 o'clock that evening, we've got a Planning Commission meeting. On the Tuesday, the 27th, at 8:30 in the morning, we've got a planning meeting. On the 29th of June at 6 o'clock in the evening, not that this needs to even be on the calendar, I guess, because it's a work night out at the fairgrounds. On the 30th at 10 o'clock in the morning, we've got a Central Minnesota EMS Joint Powers Board meeting, and that's at the Stearns County Service Center. On the 6th of July at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a legislative conference call. That is at my house. On the 7th at 8:30 in the morning, we've got a TSWAC meeting at the landfill. And following that TSWAC meeting at the landfill, we're gonna have a Public Works planning meeting. On the 10th at 7 o'clock in the evening, there's an extension.
5:30.
Excuse me, thank you. Got that wrong. At 5:30, in fact, it's at 5 o'clock, isn't it? 5:30? 5:30 in the evening, there's an extension meeting down in meeting room 1 or 2 or 3. On the 11th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, we've got a county board meeting. 7 o'clock that evening, there's a Board of Adjustments meeting. On the 12th, I think maybe about 9 o'clock or something like that in the morning, we're gonna have a leadership training exercise at Camp Ripley.
Yes, it's going to be wonderful. Thank you so much for your positive attitude and participation.
Confident of that. At 7 o'clock that same evening, we're gonna have a public hearing regarding sales tax. On the 13th at 5:30 in the evening, we've got a trails meeting at the fort. On the 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got an armor rack meeting in Wadena County. And I think I have exhausted my calendar.
Commissioner Wincher.
You're going through the 25th, right?
No, 15th.
Oh, then he's got me. Covered me.
Commissioner Lemire.
Public health on the 28th at 5 PM. It's the only one different I got.
And I'm covered. Oh, hold, yeah, we went to what? The 15th?
15th.
Yep, I'm covered too. Commissioner Johnson?
Okay, I've got on the 6th, I've got South Country Health Alliance meeting in Owatonna at 9 in the morning. I have Yellow Ribbon on the 10th at Jordy's in Bovis. Let's see. Mike, on Wednesday, the 12th. No, what day do you and I have a?
Morrison, Todd, Bodina? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's the afternoon.
health board
3
meeting.
o'clock, Yep.
I think that's on,
I
think
have it
that's-
here.
it's on the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
The 12th, so that's the same day the
That's the
deal
one
with
that-
camp.
That's the one they normally cancel though, right?
Yeah, it might be canceled, we don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But that's on, yeah, that would be
Otherwise,
a,
if you have
that,
to leave early, I mean, you can.
that would be a 3 o'clock in Staples.
Once you get done going under the barbed wire and the
Yeah,
mud.
you can change
then you
quick
can
and-
leave.
There you go.
Tab, I got, on the 27th, I got HRA to 7:30 AM.
Oh, I did not have that, so HRA at 7:30,
Yep.
and that's PM,
Pardon me?
7:30 PM,
AM.
AM.
I was gonna say, they moved them to the evening, but.
AM. They're not going.
Okay.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.